Welcome to our intro to pseudocode, also known as the art of thinking like a programmer before you even touch real code. I'm Nilik Weimer, your computer science teacher, and in this video, we're going to break down what pseudocode is, why it's important, and how you can use it to simplify your programming journey. Let's get started. What is pseudocode? So, what is pseudocode? It's a way to describe the steps of a computer program using plain, everyday language, not an actual programming language like Python or JavaScript. Think of it as a blueprint or outline that tells the computer, or more importantly, your teammates, what the logic of your code will be. An easy analogy is writing a recipe before cooking. You don't jump into the kitchen with no plan, you start with clear steps. Pseudocode gives your code structure and purpose before you build it. Why use pseudocode? There are three major benefits to writing pseudocode. First, it's much easier to think through your ideas when you're not worrying about programming grammar or syntax. You can just focus on the logic. Second, because it's written in plain English, it's great for teamwork and collaboration. Everyone can understand what you're planning to build. And third, it helps clean up messy thinking. You can organize your thoughts, troubleshoot your logic, and avoid errors before you even start coding. This means less time debugging and more time building. Basic structure. Now let's talk about structure. Pseudocode follows a very basic but clear format. You'll use keywords like start, input, if, then, else, while, and end to guide your logic. Here's a sample structure. You start the program, input a value, use a decision like if something is true, then do this, else do that, and then end the program. It's kind of like telling a story, but with instructions a computer could eventually understand. There's no strict rule to how pseudocode must look. What matters is that it's clear and easy to follow. Pseudocode versus real code. Let's look at the difference between pseudocode and real code. On the left, we have a simple pseudocode example. On the right, we see the same logic written in an actual programming language like Python. Notice how the logic is identical. We check a condition, then output a result. The difference is that real code has strict syntax rules, parentheses, colons, indentation, or curly braces. With pseudocode, you're free to think in plain steps, which can then be translated into any programming language you choose later on. Welcome to our intro to pseudocode, now let's put this into the art of thinking like a programmer before you even touch real code. Write pseudocode to decide if a student your computer science based on a score and in this video, 100. We're going to break down what think about the steps you would take, why it's important, and how you can get the student to simplify your programming journey. Check if it's greater than or equal to a passing grade. Let's say what 60, is pseudocode, and then give the right output. So, what is pseudocode? Pause the video and try it's a way to describe the steps of a computer program using plain, everyday language solution, not an actual programming Here's one way to like solve Python or JavaScript. Input Think of it as a blueprint or outline if score is greater than or equal to 60, then output your teammates pass. What the logic of your code will be fail. An easy analogy is writing a recipe this before solution cooking. Is simple, logical, you don't jump into the kitchen with no plan. You might have used slightly different words. Pseudocode gives your code structure and purpose as long as the steps make sense and your logic flows correctly. You're on the right track. There are three major benefits. The goal is clarity and consistency, not perfection. First, it's much easier to think through your ideas when you're not worrying about programming grammar or syntax. Here's your exit ticket. You can just focus on the logic to check if a number is even or odd. Because it's written in plain English, you'll want to use the modulo operation for teamwork and collaboration. Everyone That's where you divide a number by 2 and check the remainder. And third, if the remainder is zero, messy thinking, it's even. You can organize your thoughts, troubleshoot your logic, and avoid errors before you even start coding your class platform. This means less time debugging Google and more time building or a worksheet. Basic structure. Take your time, and remember, now let's talk about steps, not code. Pseudocode follows a very basic but clear format. In this lesson, we learned what keywords like start, how it helps simplify your thinking, else, and how to write and practice with it to guide your logic. This is just the beginning of becoming a confident problem solver. You start the program, input a value, practicing, use a decision, and you'll find that writing real code becomes much easier when you've already mapped it out in your mind. See you.